working? Yeah. My goodness. Reflections on an emotional march down memory lane, where there are a lifetime of precious memories. When Nancy and I first moved back to Bishop on a permanent basis, I was universally recognized as Mr. Nancy Pearson. It was a blow to my ego, but I got used to it. And from the looks of this crowd, I can understand why. Nancy was the love of my life, my soulmate, my rock, my housekeeper, bookkeeper, secretary, treasurer, moral compass, and in our declining years, my caretaker. Nancy and I met about 60 years ago at a dance hall down in Rivera. While we were dating, I accused her of being a honky-tonk queen. She never fessed up. A little over a year later, we were married right here in this church. And on or about the wedding reception, one of our alleged goodwill wishers made some kind of a negative comment on her side of the family, by the way. I hope it works out for her. I don't know about that guy. Wonder why she married him. I'd like to take this opportunity to clear that up right now, just for the record. Nancy married me for money and prestige because when we got married, I had $60 and a 53 Mercury. I wasn't scared of nothing, wasn't smart enough. As the years went by, one thing was abundantly apparent. Nancy had a very strong Christian faith. She believed very strongly in the Ten Commandments. She believed that the words of the Apostles' Creed were the very essence of a Christian faith for any denomination. She didn't wear a religion on her sleeve. She never went out in the masses to bring in the sheaves, but she practiced her Christianity with her works and deeds and her relations with other people. She was never condescending. She was the antithesis of being self-centered. She made other people feel special. She was just that kind of a person. Dealing with other people, it was never me. It was always you. She was just that way. She taught in the Bishop School District for 36 years. Most of that time down in the kindergarten. She loved that job. I used to kid her, no wonder you like it. You spend all day pushing those little kids around and having fun, playing games. But at the end of every school year, she made every one of them feel special on some level, and they loved her. We're all familiar with a guy that said, old age is the golden years. I always maintained that whoever that joker was had never been there. But I have to tell you, Nancy truly experienced gold in her declining years. Her gold came in the formation of grandchildren. When you're raising your own kids, it's not a lot of fun. There's too much responsibility. There's issues and challenges over the years, emotional, social, medical emergencies. Once in a while, you have an independent rebel in the bunch. But all those things are off the table when it comes to grandchildren. Early on, we had some terrible experiences. It started in the 90s. Our first grandson was born severely disabled. That was immediately followed by two stillborn granddaughters, Lily and Lucy. It was truly heart-wrenching for everybody involved. Nancy cried and cried. I thought she was going to dehydrate. It was a double whammy for me because I had to watch her suffer. It was one of those situations where you say, why me, Lord? Why my family? It never happened. Nancy and I, as parents, never had those kind of experiences. She just went to the hospital one day, came home a day or two later with a fresh baby, nothing to it. But as the years went by, the old saying goes, time heals all wounds. By and by, those grandbabies start hitting the ground, one right after the other, each one another piece of gold for Nancy. In less than 2 decades, she wore out 2 automobiles, going back and forth to Central Texas, League City, Sandia. In the summertime, hauling them from one camp to another. She loved every minute of it. She would come up with schemes and ideas for her to get to spend some more time, to be around those kids. It got pretty intense. I finally decided it was maybe time for me to do a little counseling and give some guidance. Wrong. I said, Nance, you got to understand, those children are not your children. They're your children's children. The parents will let you know when it's time for you to be of some help. For that little bit of unsolicited advice, I received severe retribution. The silent treatment, it was deafening. At one point during those years, she flew to France twice for 6 weeks at a time to be with an infant newborn grandchild. She knew that if those kids had any chance at all in this world of making it, she had to be there. The second time she got ready to go, I thought I'd needle her a little bit just for entertainment. I said, Nance, this second time you're going jet-setting around the globe, leaving me home on the end of a vacuum cleaner, completely without adequate adult supervision. 6 weeks, long time to leave a hound off the leash. I might decide just do a little hobnobbing around myself. And she said, you just go ahead on, big guy. But when I get back, you best be at the house, and it better be clean. There was one experience we had I'll never forget. Nancy had the tables turned on her. Usually she was the one making somebody feel special. But there was a time when she was feeling so special. She was swole up with pride like an old toad somebody stepped on. Over the years, we had a young pastor and his family spend some time here. His wife, 2 great children, the Innsrud years. At some point during that time, his in-laws, his wife's parents came down from somewhere up north, one of the Dakotas, I think. And they spent a month, 6 weeks here, extended period of time. While they were here, another couple in the family we were good friends with, we decided to show those foreigners how to have a good time. We throwed them an old-fashioned South Texas barbecue. Variety of meats, smoked over mesquite coals, homemade barbecue sauce, grilled onions, roasted tortillas, a big bucket of highly seasoned Tex-Mex beans. And the mother-in-law, June, came out with a camera taking pictures of Fred and I at the pit. Oh, how amazing. Texans barbecuing without a gas fire. Pretty amazing. While she was there, she commenced to compliment Nancy. What a wonderful career you have. You just love it. A beautiful house. You obviously have a loving, supporting husband. And look at those flower beds. How do you find the time? At some point, Nancy gave her a tour of the Smithsonian, that big old barn of a house she was so proud of. That house, another story. Would you just look at those hardwood floors? And your decor, that wall in the living room filled with those ornate crucifix, those beautiful antique coal oil lamps lined up along that built-in china cabinet, which, by the way, was filled with my grandmother's antique china and silverware. And those drapes, you must have spent no, I made those my own. Oh, an accomplished seamstress. The accolades just kept coming. And you could tell Nancy was swollen up with pride. She was just beaming. This gal was not superficially polite. She was generally sincere. She thought Nancy had it all. At the end of the day, when the guests were all gone, fire was out, leftovers put away, kitchen clean, kids in the bed, Nancy and I were sitting in the den reflecting over what a great day it had been. And I decided to give my psychological analysis of the day's events. I said, you know, Dan, June, that gal was something. I mean, she blowed smoke on you all day long. I know always knew you were successful, but you just seemed to have it all. And I was glad of one thing. She did mention the husband. After all, in the big picture, it is a position that has to be filled. I guess anybody could have done it. She made me feel glad that I made the team on the starting lineup. There was some silence. Nancy's sixth sense kicked in. She sensed that maybe I was feeling a little bit left out and unappreciated. Maybe a little self-pity. Maybe a little envy. Maybe subconsciously I was. Then she moved over next to me, and she made me feel special in a way that nobody else could have ever done. She gave me a hug and a kiss, and she said, I want to thank you, big guy, for choosing me to be on your team. It was really great. You know, first appearances, you would think Nancy was just a puny little old gal raised in an obscure village, not exposed to any elite culture. But there was one thing about her. You could not intimidate her. There was at least 2 times over the years it was tried. One time in a very public manner. Her adversaries came out losers. And it was a real experience. Nancy could say a lot of things with just her eyes. They were a window into her persona. Years ago, when I was gainfully employed at the Bishop School District, a disgruntled student once accused one of my colleagues of screaming with her eyes. Nancy could do this, but she seldom did. It was mostly a look of empathy and compassion. Her final days were truly a traumatic experience. We talked quite a bit. She was not afraid to die. Her Christian faith gave her so much courage. She said, "There's only one thing in life I regret." I said, "I sure hope he's not marrying me." "Oh, no." She rolled her eyes. "I'm not going to get to see my grandchildren finish growing up. The weddings, the graduations, I'm going to miss." I said, "You know, honey, those kids are going to be fine. They don't really need..." "Oh, shut up." And we laughed a little. It wasn't much. It was the last time we ever laughed together. She said the last thing she ever did was give. She said, "I want to donate my body to science. Is that okay with you?" We both knew that was a rhetorical question. "You take care of it." Well, I couldn't. I was too consumed by grief. Somebody in the crowd, one of the kids, I suspect, called the proper authorities. The very next day, the body snatchers showed up with all the paperwork. They explained that her body would be used for science research, perhaps in a medical school. When they were done, it would be cremated, the ashes returned in a fashionable urn to the family. That's what I want. She signed the papers. There was a moment of silence, and then she looked at me. I said, "Oh yeah, that's okay, me too. You can sign me up. You can have them. I won't be needed anymore." There was another experience we had with the grandchildren that I found so amusing. As a family, when we were traveling together with our own kids, I nearly always did the driving. Nancy was busy corralling the kids, giving instructions. But when it came to the grandchildren, there was an elephant in the room. We never acknowledged it. We never spoke of it. But she would say, "I'm going to drive. I'll do the driving." That's okay with me. I just sat there in the passenger seat, listened to the kids interact, joined in myself, glanced over at Nancy, and there she was, leaning a bit forward, both hands firmly on the steering wheel, white knuckles, peering the road through freshly cleaned spectacles on a windshield. She knew she didn't want somebody like me driving with that carefree, cavalier attitude. It was just too big a risk. I found it amusing. At the very end, it was terrible watching her suffer, hard to breathe. I found myself asking, "Why, Nancy, Lord? Why does she have to suffer? Then it crossed my mind, maybe just perhaps she was not the one being punished. You know, the Bible teaches us that we reach our salvation through faith, not through works and deeds. But surely in God's great kingdom, if there are any rewards for good works and deeds, Nancy's cup surely runneth over. I am sure that she will rest in peace, at least until I get there.